Hey guys, this is Chaplin Beau out in Tucson, Arizona. And it's been a while since I sent you guys a video, so it's good to do it. It's actually November, mid November, if you can believe it already. I'm sure you guys are kind of getting a little bit antsy to get somewhere if you're not already somewhere and kind of get your skates on and laced up and ready to go. Tucson, just to update you, is doing pretty good. Everything's pretty much open. We'll see how that kind of rolls out here in the next couple weeks. Of course, there's always talk of more kind of shutting down measures as the increase in the COVID cases happens. But we'll see. We'll just see how it goes. Our governor's been pretty good about things to keep things kind of open and just people masking up. And we hope that's what kind of takes place. And we hope people certainly don't, get so sick where they die, and things are getting much more manageable. I know personally, I've talked to medical doctors that actually have no work. Yeah, isn't that radical? Yeah, surgeons that are struggling with work just simply because they haven't had anything going on at the hospital for whatever reason. So it kind of leads me to probably things that are on your mind too, and that is there's so much information and misinformation that's going on in our world on so many different kind of major topics. You think of the COVID information overload that we've all had. We have no clue really where to go or what to believe half the time nowadays with it. And we've all probably known people that have gotten COVID. Some people have had serious issues early on. Some people have not. Some people have not even known really they've had it, just like a little cold. And so, and then we hear of, man, we should go on lockdown. Well, we shouldn't go on lockdown. We need to get it over here. We need herd immunity. We need this. We need that. No, we don't need that. And it just goes on and on. And then on top of that is all the issues that were going on with our election and the madness of that as well in some of the states, and not even finished counting or needing to recount, and the different fraud allegations, and is it true, is it not, what's happening, blah blah blah. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. And I'm sure you're probably at the place where you're just like, hey, let's move on. But it's hard to move on, right? And it's hard to know who to trust in our life at times. And if there's anything that you've probably maybe gained an insight in, and that is, it's very difficult on this planet to really figure out who is giving the proper or the correct information of things. And we really have to sift through a lot of things to do kind of our research. And we should be researching all of our things, because we never know, especially when money's involved. We all understand that when money's involved and the world works through money, things can get corrupted really quick. And our hearts don't, as human beings, aren't necessarily great ones. We definitely can go astray fairly quickly. And if you kind of assess your own heart, sometimes you can see that within yourself. Maybe wrong motives you have. Maybe you're doing things in half ways. Maybe you just doing things for the buck. Maybe you can see just motives that aren't the greatest sometimes happening. And you think of how much money is to be made off of whether it's issues that relating to health, and or relating to politics, and wow, it's gargantuan, right? And we all understand that. So it leads us to our individual lives. What do we do? Who do we trust? And these are good questions to always get to in your life, because everybody's trusting someone. Like, for instance, when I went to college, I noticed the professors talked with great authority, as if they knew the answers. Now, if I went to college 50 years ago, I would get professors that also felt the same way. And if I went 50 years before that, I would also find professors that again felt the same way, that they were a valid source of truth. And my point is that whenever you go into places that have an authority in them, they always are touting something that they believe to be true. And that is not, they don't just say that just because they want to share their information, what they believe to be true, but they're trying to influence people. They believe it to be true so much that they want you to understand their truth. And another reason why I bring up the professors over the years is because one professor might believe one thing to be true that contradicts the professor in 50 years or 50 years later. Um, so every professor, they might be spouting a truth, but it might be a different truth from what the professor thought 100 years ago. And it leads you to understand that a lot of students, we all sit in the classrooms, or we all put on the news, or we watch something on YouTube, and what seems to be true at the moment might actually turn out not to be true in the long run. And things are always changing. And so it becomes very difficult to find out who is really telling the full truth. And wow, if you get so caught up in the what I call the horizontal things on this earth, right? In the people that are sharing, and these people are just like you and I, made of flesh and blood, have some good thoughts and some not so good thoughts. But if you trust in just that horizontal people, then you might be in for a rocky road, because just as you might listen to one person who says one thing, you could turn it on another. You can put on something else, and they're going to say something that's totally the opposite, or challenge that person's idea of truth. And it might make you go, whoa, what is true or what is not? And that's how the news is, man. You could watch news all day long, and it seems like one article contradicts another one. And many people walk away from it absolutely frustrated and things of that, things of that nature. But what if there was something more solid than just this kind of wishy-washy? Is this true? Is it not true? I'm going to trust in that. That kind of thing. Because everybody's going off something. Everybody's trusting some authority, right? No one's not trusting in someone. They might be trusting in themselves. They just might be making up what they believe to be true. And then there's another person who might be making up what he believes to be true, he or she believes to be true. And that can go down the line, and you might say, hey, well, this is what I believe to be true. Well, that person over there might say, well, I don't care what you think to be true, because I believe what I believe to be true. And what I believe to be true is that you're wrong. That's what I believe to be true. And that can go on and on and on. See, if there's no outside source of what truth is, and all you're doing is looking at the horizontal for truth, man, truth becomes arbitrary. It becomes based on just one's own thought. And that's where we live right now, is in a world that believes in truth in here. That we have our own sense of truth, of right and wrongs. And so when you have a society or a world that's constantly looking to human beings to dictate what is true or what is false, then you have to keep looking at a higher authority of a human committee. Like, for instance, you have to look to the government to try to tell you what is right or wrong, because they're a higher committee. Or you might have to look to the Supreme Court, because they're a higher committee. They can tell you what is right and wrong. And you might have to do that because human beings tend to be all over the place on what is right and wrong. And who's to say even the government is going to be able to get what is right and wrong, or the Supreme Court is going to be able to get in on what is right or wrong. See, it all becomes just humans trying to figure it out. If the belief is that humans are the end all of all understanding. And if that's all you got is human beings, and that's all you get, that's all you can look to. Now, Jesus said something far different, and he claimed to be an authority that we should be looking to ultimately. And the reason why is because God is more stable. God would be most stable, if you will, above mankind. As God would be stable, meaning the foundation would be good. It would be not a wishy-washy foundation. This is right, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right. It would be solid. And it would be binding also on all people. And so all people would be under that truth, right, of what is true. And so it makes sense that, that would be a greater authority, something that's greater than human beings. So Jesus says, all things have been committed to me by my Father, by God. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So Jesus claims to be this higher authority along the par with the Father, with God. And he says, come to me. So he's claiming himself to be that authority. Come to me. Don't go to your news, man. Don't go to YouTube. Don't go to your Twitter feed, right? To be released of a burden or a heavy yoke. A yoke was, think of the oxen, how they had these instruments, these tools that were placed on their necks to hold them close together so that they would go through the land. They would till the ground and break up that hard ground so that they could plant. And they needed those oxen to go straight and not get all veered off and not working as a team. So they would have these yokes, that's what they were called, that would go around their necks and attach to the other ox. And that way it kept them really on pace. And Jesus says, take my yoke upon you. Now a yoke was usually very burdensome, very heavy. And so Jesus, when he's saying take my yoke, he's saying my yoke, he says, is light. I don't know if you catch that, but he says, take my yoke and learn from me, right? And he's saying, I'm going to be able to give you rest. You're going to be able to learn from me. Come to me for the authority, because it's a lighter yoke. It's able to help you because it is stable. It is consistent. And that's when it's going to keep you in a stability in your life. Too many people are depressed right now, and it's kind of crazy how these statistics that are coming out bear the idea that people during this COVID time are bummed out. Kids are struggling, elderly are struggling, they're alone. And there's just an amazing amounts of depression, and you might feel some of that too. And when you're sitting at your house and your authority on what is true or not is just news, or your Twitter feed or YouTube, man, it can be all over the place. You can believe this one minute and then you go this way that minute, and you know how it goes. Some of my favorite YouTube clips, by the way, are the comedies on kind of the different things that are going on, in our world and how confusing it is. There's really some good ones out there that you watch and you're just like busting up because it's so true. Like one minute wear the mask, next minute don't wear the mask, next minute do this, next minute do that. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you've probably laughed at some of those yourself. But Jesus claims to be the ultimate authority, the one you could go to, and he says you're not going to be burdened. I'm going to give you a lighter yoke, you know, one that, and I tell you what, it's, the love that God has for you is tremendous. And to come to God and say, hey, God, I'm going to look to you for my strength, for my inner peace in my life. I'm going to look to you to give me the stability that I need as a human being. I'm going to give you the authority that's due you as God to dictate the things that I need to do or what I need to change in my life. And see, that is solid, because there ain't no moving there. God ain't going to move. It says, the Bible says that God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Stability. But kingdoms come up and kingdoms go down. And that's how this world is. Things go up, things go down, things change. When I was young, people said the earth was this old. Now the earth is a billion times older. It aged a lot in 30 years. And believe me, if you're trusting in, quote, science, then you're going to have to go with the scientific world. 200 years ago, the science community believed something totally different. 200 years before that, something different. And 200 years before that, something different. And who's to say that 200 years from now, they're not going to look back on our time and our scientific endeavors, and they're going to go, those people were dumb. They didn't know nothing. Are you going to trust in that? That's not too stable, that's for sure. See, God says that, hey, you can come to me who are weary and burdened. You might live in a world, and we all live in a world actually, that we don't know financially what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to lose my house. I don't know if I'm going to have a job. I don't know if this is going to happen or that's going to happen. What is going to happen? We have no clue, and God says, come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. See, one thing I can always count on is that God loves me and that he's there for me, and that I could always come to him even in my mind and talk to him and give him my heart, give him my burdens. And he says, I'm going to give you a lighter burden, because I care for you. You give your burdens to someone out there, right? You give it to YouTube. You give it to Twitter. Does Twitter love you? Does YouTube love you? Does the news networks love you? I'll let you answer that one. So it says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Yeah, that's what's really bothering us in here, right? And it says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So very cool how Jesus says that. He lets us know that he is the ultimate authority and we can come to him. So who are you going to trust, right? It's a really big idea in life. Who are you going to trust? So I didn't want to take too long of a time because I can, as you guys know. But I wanted just to give you something to think about and to kind of mull over in your mind during these difficult times. Maybe spend a little more time in prayer. Maybe really do an endeavor like what I did when I was 17, 18 years old. I said, you know what, man, I'm going to read the Bible. I never read the Bible before in my life, man. I'm going to go for it. Maybe do something like that. Start getting into things a little more, and have that good meditation time with God, and find. That's the beautiful thing of studying the Bible, is you find stability in the character of God. Jesus said some amazing things, and I'll just kind of leave you guys with this one thing he says at the end of John chapter 16. He says, hey, I have told you things so that I have told you so many things that in me, remember, he's talking about him being the authority, in me you will have peace. In this world you will have trouble. In the horizontal there'll be much trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. And I love that. I have overcome the world. He wants us to look vertically, not just horizontally. We always are going to be looking horizontally, but we need to look up vertically at God, who is greater than man, and be able to see his stability and his care for us and his love for us. And then we go, oh man, I see now. He's overcome the world. God's overcome the world. There's something that Jesus came to do to overcome all the madness, all the distrust of this world. He's come to bring you back to look to him instead of looking to everything else. And maybe that's what God's putting on your heart a little bit during these times too, is hey, just get the priorities right. So you guys take care, man. Hope again we see you soon in Tucson. It's still kind of sunny. It's starting to get warm again. Got a little cold, but now it's back warm. Warmer anyway. It feels great. So I know it's snowing in some of your guys' places. Blows me away. But you guys take care, okay? I look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.